Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 13th week of the AI evaluation code. Hi, Matteo. How are you this morning?
Hi, not too bad at all. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. And you everything okay, yeah?
It's so good. Thank you. Um, so today we are taking a very important topic. Over the past few weeks, we've explored the triangle and we looked at two sides of it. We looked at intellectual property and succession planning. Tonight, we're looking at the third. We're talking about global expansion. Historically, international growth was considered something business pursued only after they had succeeded, right? So they succeeded in their initial country, and then they would look at exploring elsewhere. But today, that assumption has completely changed. AI has definitely rechanged these rules, and it has reduced all barriers that previously limited international growth to only large or larger corporations. That result is that even smaller businesses can now begin thinking globally, even much more than before, and even at earlier stages than before. But all of these actually raises a very important question. If global growth is becoming easier, does that automatically create value then? Or does it simply create more complexity? This is basically what we'll be discussing tonight. What are your thoughts, Matteo?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I mean, we can say that with AI, what we see is a real change here because AI is actually breaking the barriers down. I think the question becomes one of the most important valuation and commercial question of this era, of this intangible economy where AI is really rewriting really the rules.
Mhm.
Let's face it. What are business being asked today by investor? Are they being asked if they can grow? Not anymore, really, because the question is actually how do you scale globally? Because AI breaks down the barrier. And let's face it, it becomes also a survival question. We've been speaking over the last few weeks about founder-centric businesses, how they actually become really vulnerable with AI. But let's think about also how vulnerable businesses are when they don't actually think globally as soon as they should. A business can grow locally but still remain constrained, especially in our era. A globally scalable business has a completely different valuation profile. We always say the high valuation triangle, each side of the triangle will actually compound the other two sides. Yeah. So if you already have defined what you own through intellectual property, then you have also shown how you actually gonna transfer value, then going global will actually multiply your valuation many times higher. And again, the word valuation here means immediate growth, immediate commercial growth. And AI is fundamentally changing the economics of achieving that scalability. Because today you can scale a lot faster if you're well organized, of course. If you're not well organized, it's a completely different matter. The opportunity is really extraordinary, but so are really the risk if the business misunderstand what global expansion actually requires. We said it so many times, you can go uh, from good to great or from bad to worse, and that's really where it stands, really.
Think one of the things that I often see during transactions is that investors get really nervous when all the revenue comes from one single geography. I think the reasons is that even if the business is excellent and you have like excellent management and the margins are strong, your concentration is still seen as a risk, right? Because you only have one economy, one regulatory system, one political system, and basically one customer base, sorry. So it's one single set of assumptions, right? So in the eyes of investors, all your risk is concentrated into one single pot, right? The moment the business begins proving itself in several markets, then something changes. the risk is perceived smaller because that risk is spread over a larger customer base. So basically, in the eyes of investors, those companies become more resilient, and then they become also more attractive to capital.
Yeah, they become more attracted to capital, but they also become so much stronger in markets in general. And we see this happening a lot with the big companies becoming bigger. What do they do right when they go global after they have conquered their own local markets? Well, they go back to the high valuation triangle. They find the best possible manner to use intellectual property to then conquer the new markets that they're going to conquer.
Mm.
So that's why the high valuation triangle is actually has got a compounding effect. You know, it's not just an addition, it's a compounding effect. It's you multiply, basically you multiply your value. From a valuation perspective, global expansion creates something that is really, really important, and very, very much the opposite to what we've been speaking about with founder-centric businesses. As you remember, we've been speaking about dependency. Now, global expansion creates the opposite, optionality. Okay, because a business serving one market has one primary growth engine, let's face it, a business serving 10 markets potentially has 10 growth engines. Investors are not buying today's revenue, they're buying future possibilities. And let's also talk about risk. You know, the risk goes down, obviously, if you compound it in the right way with intellectual property. When the risk goes down, the valuation goes higher, and there's a compounding effect. So the greater the number of credible future opportunities, the greater the potential valuation. And that's why I always say that international scalability often commands a premium. I would say almost invariably. We're talking about, however, international scalability. We're not just talking about international growth, okay? So we're not talking about that kind of growth where you grow because you just want to create a new office or a new economy, a new geography. We're talking about real scalability, yeah?
Actually, a lot of acquisitions happen because companies or buyers see untapped potential in a particular geography, right? Um, Sometimes the acquirer is not even purchasing current performance. We've done market entries in several countries like Pakistan, Brunei. What they're looking for is the purchasing that future expansion capability a lot more than what is only currently produced, which is a shift in investors' mindset.
Yeah, and this is a feature of our intangible economies today is with AI. Um, what does it mean? It means that really the founders that are listening to us today, which thank you so much for joining us every week. So many of you have been contacting us. The founders they really should really have a different attitude. They should stop asking how large is my current market. It's not a matter of size, really. Really, the question should be quite different, yeah? The question should be how many markets could this model realistically serve? And founders should also think about competitors, yeah? Let's say if I don't do it, who's gonna do it and is gonna go there before me? Again, it's fundamental to be professionalized. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about just adventure here. We're talking about really professionalization before you do that. So why should this question be asked? It's because AI is making the answer much bigger than it used to be. Today, you almost to consider that your business should be natively global. That's definitely what AI is asking us to do.
Absolutely. Let's pause here for a minute and ask our audience what their opinions and where they're at. So how many countries do you currently selling to? Option A would be 1. Option B would be 2 to 5. Option C, 6 to 10. And option D, more than 10. Please do type your answers in the comments. And while you do so, Matteo suggests we go for a quick 90 seconds about the book Failed Pivot Scale. What do you think?
Oh, thank you so much, Margaret. Yeah, as we mentioned the last few weeks, Felt Pivot Scale features the high valuation triangle very, very heavily. It's the result of really a program that was written for the University of Plymouth in 2017. We live in an extraordinary world today. I mean, if in 2017 we were speaking about intangible economy in a manner that many people thought it was premature, but it wasn't. Well, in 2026, I would say intangible economies are really center of the agenda. And in the book, people will find 26 self-assessment that will really help them with the business, not just in 2026, but in the future. So no, thank you so much, and I hope everyone will enjoy this 90 seconds with the book, and you will be able to find out also about it all in Amazon as well. So thank you. We can go ahead with the 90 seconds.
Thank you, Matteo. Thank you, Matteo, for sharing those 90 seconds about Fake Pivot Scale. It's absolutely very innovative way of looking at a business. And I think every founder should read this book and make use of its insight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a motivational book. It's really about helping businesses in nowadays economy. It's almost like a workbook, because you have to use it as you move into your business. Going back to your question about, you were asking the audience how many countries they're currently selling to. Yeah, very interesting to find out, because we have many founders sometimes asking the question what to do when to go abroad, how to really go overseas. And now it's it would almost be normal to ask another question, really. If language barriers disappear tomorrow, how many additional markets could you enter? Because many times, people think, okay, I can't go into that countries because of the language and etc. But that gap between today's reality and tomorrow's possibility is where AI can actually create value. So yeah, we got also the situation compared to the past as well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of businesses waited for such a long time to become successful locally before expanding was that international expansion required gigantic investments. You needed to invest in local teams, local advisors, local offices, and definitely local expertise. So, what do you really think is changing?
I mean, difficult to list everything, all the changes that are taking place, but I would say pretty much everything is changing. What can AI do now? How can AI help businesses? Well, they can translate instantly. I mean, that was not the case 20, 30 years ago. Um, they can localize content. That's another big discovery. The content can be quickly made comfortable for local customer. It can also conduct market research. We just remember how difficult it was to do research before. It used to take days, weeks. Today with AI, yeah, we're able to do research much, much more quickly. The supply and demand I'm talking about, of course, generate country-specific marketing so you can much more quickly find out what kind of behaviors you're gonna anticipate from customer, what kind of demand, what kind of supply is needed to operate. AI can also provide multilingual customer support because let's
Mm,
face it, this is really changing. It's breaking down barriers. Especially in geographies that used to be far away, they're still far away, but in terms of distance, but now in terms of language, but now they are much much closer. It was like breaking down geography. They can also analyze competitive landscape. AI can help you with that. Predict also demand patterns as I was saying before. Um, Through machine learning, you can actually, especially if AI gets embedded in your business, you can actually predict demand patterns a lot quicker. That becomes an additional part of your dynamic intellectual property.
mm,
And when it becomes international as well as dynamic, we are talking about a big benefit for your business, much much faster than you would have imagined. So AI is actually compounding your business in two different ways, AIP and global markets. I would say this: what used to require significant infrastructure can now begin with systems. And systems are really what create the best result and with the lowest risk. And system scale differently from people, as we know. The business is much more scalable. It's almost like, for investors, it's like a paradise, really. If obviously you do things in the right way, if you professionalize yourself and you make sure the system can actually scale your business.
I think this is where founders really underestimate the real shift. Historically, learning about a new market meant weeks of time, a lot of preparation, often many business trips, and ultimately it was very expensive. So companies needed to be sure, right? And that take a lot of time and um, a significant investment, as we said before. Well, today, experimentations is a lot cheaper and accessible to everybody. And it basically changes the order or the steps within a potential market expansion because businesses can really test before they actually commit. Before they had to commit financially before being able to test. They are able to validate before they start investing. Before it was, you needed to pay first and then see if that was still a possibility. And today, businesses can learn before they actually hire. Before they would have to hire people so that they could understand whether that business or whether that market expansion made any sense at all. So it does changes the order and makes market expansion accessible.
I could not agree more. These are big changes, big positive changes. If businesses obviously use AI in the right way and they expand globally with the right attitude, AI is not eliminating risk, but it's reducing the cost of discovering risk.
Mm.
So it's very, very different here. So it's about the attitude, and that distinction is so fundamental because businesses that learn faster, they also grow faster. So, and obviously, in with competitors really on your back, you have to really be proactive with that. And I would say this, businesses that grow faster obviously generally attract capital faster. So it's again, it's that compounding effect, yeah.
It's basically AI becomes a market intelligence engine, not just a productivity tool. Sure, we've been saying again and again, companies tend to put the layer of AI on top of a system which is broken, and they don't get the full benefits of that AI implementation, right? If you put the right structure, then AI becomes a market intelligence tool and a predictive tool.
Yeah, I would underwrite everything you said. That's precisely what it becomes. And investors increasingly recognize that advantage. They understand that if you professionalize your business in the right way, if you follow the triangle, the high valuation triangle, with the right sequence, and for example, you protect your IP before you commercialize it, for example, and then you execute, and then you make the business transferable in terms of value, then you can scale. And when you scale, obviously, it's where every dollar or pound or euro invested gives you a better return than the previous euro or dollar or pound invested. So that's absolutely the way it is. You need to think about AI really as a market intelligence engine as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just because we are learning and we always say that we learn more from mistakes than we do from things getting always right. So let's discuss those mistakes. What is the biggest error companies make when trying to expand internationally?
Yeah, we've been speaking about this for quite some times. Yeah. Especially when we were talking about M&A. The biggest mistake is in M&A, it's obviously even more something that people have to really think about very seriously before they do it. The they assume that success will go from geography to geography automatically, but it doesn't. Because many businesses believe, okay, because it works here, surely we're gonna be successful in another place. That is an assumption that can really destroy, can destroy value because we know very well that each market can behave differently. Doesn't mean that you will always, but you need to understand, you need to do your marketing. Marketing is supply and demand. Many people confuse marketing with promotion sometimes. They think that they just need to promote. Not really. You have to understand the demand and the supply, and you need to understand also the competitors. Yeah. Also, there are different purchasing patterns, different regulation. There could also be different expectation. So let's say this is where you should really use AI in a way that helps you overcome and anticipate this issue, because those are things that are not undiscoverable. As we said before, AI does not eliminate risk, but it does reduce the cost of discovering that risk. So AI can help you identify those differences So you can be prepared before you take the risk, before you spend that money. AI can tell you, okay, look, you need to really look. It doesn't mean that you need to listen to AI without doing your own sort of thinking, because AI will give you potentially a heads up, but then you have to really study the real situation. So, but leadership effectively still has to respond intelligently. That's what I'm saying. So you don't just mm, you know uh, have blind eyes and then you just think, okay, well, AI has told me what to do. Absolutely not. In actual fact, what we've been speaking about the last few weeks is that AI makes leadership even more important. The quality of the decision really has to step up, and the attitude towards taking those quality decisions has to improve as well. So definitely, leadership is has a big role to play here in anticipating the potential pitfall of going global without real preparation.
I agree. And I would even argue that AI enhances human centricity, right? Rather than, I know there's the argument that AI will remove jobs and if people will not be able to find jobs, but I actually think that uh, the reality is that it will enhance the importance of human decision and human intelligence. Now, that being said, um, all these concepts, going global, implementations of AI, are all elements that investors will be testing. It's not if, it's will. And the question is whether can management adapt or they're just trying to copy paste success from somewhere else, either from a competitor or from a model that is working one country. And the truth is the market won't forgive those mistakes because going global is really about flexibility, not replication.
Absolutely. And I would say this, I would go back to you were talking earlier on before about the demystification about AI and jobs, because one of the big shifts that we are experiencing in our world is that private capital markets are exploding. I call it explosion because we're talking about $10 trillion more asset under management in 48 months. Okay. Now, what do you think is that capital doing? Is it gonna just invest in AI and then it's gonna say, well, human intelligence, you just go to one side? It's the opposite, actually. The more money you invest, the more human intelligence has to really manage the investment. So more jobs are created. So yeah, it's time to demystify this. Many people, they feel like, they obviously you're gonna be displaced if you do not adapt, which is why we're running this series, okay? So yeah, just wanted to just check back on that particular subject you touched on, because I think it's very important for the audience to understand what we're really going through here. We're going through a really extraordinary period of intangible economy and private capital market explosion. So when you were talking about global growth requiring flexibility and no replication, absolutely, I could not agree more. Globalization is not duplication. Absolutely not. It's adaptation at scale. So that's what I would call it. Yeah. So you scale, but you need to be a lot more adaptive than you were possibly when you were doing local marketing effectively. Yeah.
Absolutely. So while we're talking about the audience, um, I would suggest we do another poll. So the question for you would be, what is currently preventing your business from expanding internationally? One, option A, I would say capital. Option B, market knowledge. Option C, language barrier. Option D, operational flexibility. And option E, fear of failure. Let me repeat that again. what is currently preventing your business from expanding internationally? Is it capital, market knowledge, language barriers, operational complexity, or fear of failure?
Yeah, very interesting question. And the answer, the traditional answer might differ from the answers of today if you are really using AI in the right way, because that's traditionally what was happening. So capital, market knowledge, language barriers, operational complexity, and fear of failure. And why am I saying that? Because whatever answer you selected, AI is reducing that barrier faster than most people realize. It's reducing the barrier of capital, market knowledge, as we said before, the language, the operational complexity, and the fear of failure. So you should really make the most of AI to ensure that you remove those obstacles because you got a fantastic opportunity. So for me, the question is whether you recognize the opportunity before your competitors will actually recognize it. And in AI-driven economies, it's about speed as well. It's about being dynamic. AI-driven economies will punish static behaviors. AI-driven economies will reward dynamic behaviors. So it's about really being responsive. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. So we had a very interesting conversation so far, but I wanted to link those topics back to the high valuation triangle. So how does global expansion strengthen the framework?
Yeah, I will say this. The first side of the triangle is IP, intellectual property. The second side is succession. And I will go back to which questions are answered by the evaluation triangle. So intellectual property answered the question, what do you own? Succession planning answer another important question, how does it transfer value?
Mhm.
Now, the first side is global reach, and it answers really a big question. How does it scale? Because an investor will ask you this question, how do you scale? And scalability is really investability, because investor will actually take it as a prerequisite that you own something, that you transfer value, but if you cannot scale, you are not investable. So without global reach, many businesses really remain limited by geography. Intellectual property creates leverage. And it creates leverage also by the time you go global, because that's how, for example, Gillette does distribution in Asia. That's how McDonald's does franchising all over the world. So IP creates leverage. Succession creates scalability as well.
Mhm.
But global expansion creates multiplicity, should we say. So basically, global expansion is like compounding what happens after you create what you own and after you are value transferable. So together they create valuation plus high quality wealth creation as well, I would say. So the word valuation, I stress to say on that, because many people, they think valuation is a calculation at the time you need a calculation. No, it's something you engineer. And the high valuation triangle is the designer of your high valuation strategy, of your wealth creation today, not tomorrow. This is really fundamental for many to understand.
Good. And when I think investors see these three forces working together, something extremely powerful happens, right? So the business appears larger than its current revenue. because of the options of the future that is associated with it. So finally, that future opportunity is extremely visible, not only to leadership within the company, but also to investors, bank, customers, which is the main objective of having a high valuation in the first place.
Absolutely, absolutely. And valuation is ultimately a prediction about future outcomes. It's like a predictor. So you design, you engineer, and then you're prepared when you need it, when you're gonna exit. But it doesn't mean that when you design valuation, you're wasting your time because you're actually creating wealth. So it's not a reward for past performance. It's why investors will pay premiums for scalable international businesses. They are purchasing future optionality. They're not paying for dependency. They're paying for optionality.
And the thing is, AI accelerates each of the sides of the triangles simultaneously. It strengthens IP creation, it strengthens leadership scalability, and it lowers the barrier to international expansion. So it's basically combining all of these elements and being able to figure out how the framework works. It's a value multiplier.
Yeah, this is why I was saying earlier on in 2017 when I created the eye valuation triangle as a system. Uh, it's because we were accelerating in intangible economies, but with the AI, the acceleration makes the behavior inevitable. So, which is why we continue saying AI is not simply another technology wave; it's real infrastructure that really changes everything. Is becoming really the operating system of modern value creation. And let's face it, today, if you want to be investor ready, you have to be AI ready. For very simple reason, because if you're not, then your competitors will be. So investors will not really look at you. And this is why, going back to the previous weeks, founder-centric businesses are really, really vulnerable because they if nothing is documented, you cannot scale anything. So that's fundamental.
Looking ahead, Matteo, what do you think will be the next decade reward?
Well, this is where AI-driven economies are asking quite a few questions. They are asking that businesses will think globally from day one, because today
Mhm.
you can't really defer it. Um, AI is also asking for businesses that use AI to learn faster. So it goes without saying, you can learn so much faster about risk. You can learn so much faster about marketing. You can learn so much faster about how legislation works in other countries as well. AI is also asking for businesses that build system instead of dependency. Again, we're talking about value transferability. We're talking about optionality as opposed to dependency. AI is also asking for businesses that understand that geography is not as so important, uh,
Mhm.
that more important than capabilities. I mean, if you're capable, and you want to go global geographically, now you can actually um, you can do it so much more easily if you got the right capability. So those are the thing the changes which are really happening in my view.
I agree. Actually, the winners might not necessarily be the largest organizations, but they would be those that manage to adapt the fastest. I think it's the ability to enter, learn, and scale across multiple markets that will become one of the advantages of this AI-driven economy.
Yeah, and that ultimately I would say becomes a story of designing valuation. Said valuation that is not just, again, it's something you engineer every day, especially because the high valuation triangle teaches us that it, especially when we speak about the intellectual property, which is the first pillar,
Mm,
is no longer a static feature of your business. It's a dynamic feature of your business. So the concept of engineering, of designing every day now becomes so much more pervasive. It's not about, okay, well, I have filed a patent and now I can live on it. Absolutely not. AI is absolutely challenging that kind of thinking, because value then follows scalability, and
mm.
scalability increasingly follow intelligence, really.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And thank you, Matteo, for this very insightful message. Tonight we explored how AI is transforming international growth. And we said this very clearly. It's not about eliminating complexity, but is making the opportunity more accessible. Complexity will not disappear, but it's just becoming more widely available at a lower cost than before.
Yeah, the opportunity is much more accessible. Absolutely. In my view, the message can be simplified, and the future will belong to businesses that combine the high valuation triangle, the three sides: strong intellectual property, strong leadership systems, and
Mm,
strong global reach. This is the evaluation triangle. That's the grid, by the way, for the electricity. So it's not, when we're talking about AI as the new electricity, there's flowing through the grid, which is the high valuation triangle. Now, electricity without a grid, we know is dangerous. We know it can create fires. So the high valuation triangle will channel the electricity in the right way to create wealth in your business.
mm,
That's the key. That's the key to understand. The word valuation doesn't mean that you're gonna calculate better your what you own.
mm,
You're gonna design it better. You're gonna create wealth immediately, and that's why we created these 12 outcomes in 49 days. It's a program designed for your business to achieve these 12 outcomes so quickly. And within the body of this invitation, this event, you will find the link to the scorecard. Now, the scorecard will allow you to get access to a diagnostic of your business, your position against those 12 outcomes. Now, you'll be able to immediately understand whether your business is ready for AI-driven economies, whether you are ready to create wealth in the most profitable manner. So it's not about valuation tomorrow or in 10 years time. It's about creating wealth today with your business. What do you own? Or even if you haven't defined what you own, we'll help you define it. We'll help you sell what you know already a lot better to your customer. And this goes for small businesses, for large businesses. There is also a scorecard for solopreneurs if you're interested in this, because many businesses, they do not really, or solopreneurs, freelance professional, they do not know how to monetize intellectual property in the right way. Last year, I met a consulting company. They thought they didn't have intellectual property. We raised the valuation from £100,000, it was in the UK, to £400,000 by establishing the intellectual property monetization that was available. So I would highly encourage you to fill up the scorecard. We'll get back to you with the diagnostic. It's all free. We can also have a 15 minutes call after that to tell you what the benefit will be of joining this program, which is 12 outcomes in 49 days. And we'll be very happy to welcome you. Any question you have, please let me know, and let Margaret know as well.
Thank you, Matteo. Please, as Matteo just mentioned, do not hesitate to email us or text us on LinkedIn. We would be very happy to answer all your questions. And yes, I would encourage you to fill in the scorecards. This is all we have time for today. But thank you, Matteo, very much for joining us. And thank you, all of you, for joining us, and see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.